is up, Retromaniacs? My name is Mike, his name's Joe, his name's EP, and we're here to talk about cards. Today, we're going to give you 5 reasons that your cards are going down in value. First one on our list here, they're all going to zero.
I thought they would never go down. What?
I know. It happens sometimes, though.
Okay. All right.
Reason number 1, the player gets injured or has off-field issues. This is one of the main factors. People have a lot of money invested into their cards, but guys like Mike Trout just can't stay healthy at all. It never fails. You get somebody, you're happy to have the card, having a great year, and then they tear their ACL. Or maybe, like some retired players, do some dumb things off the field. Brett Favre, we're looking at you. So, yeah, this is probably the main reason, especially for current card collectors, that their cards go down in value, and it's a rough one.
Wander.
I didn't want to say
I was going to say, if we were going
I'm
to
gonna
pretty
say
sure the
it.
YouTube algorithm's probably going to drop us completely if we say that.
Oh man, the amount of money that was in that guy, holy crap! I can't even imagine. Because I mean, you know baseball way better than I do, EP. I mean, he was the guy. Like people were putting a ton of capital into him. Yeah, like the big joke with Marvel collectors is Spider-Man can never tear an ACL, right? So, I mean, it's silly, but it's kind of true. I mean, with this, it's a very sports card centric thing. Though I will say there are actors. I mean, if you're a big fan of a certain actor and they do something terrible, I mean, it's possible that their card values would go down as well. So this is one that really, really sucks because you have zero control over it. There are some that we're going to talk about on this list where it's like, okay, you can put the onus on you. Like I always say, I'll never buy a used car. I want to know I'm the reason that the car got screwed up, right? Like I want to know that I was the reason that it's not doing well. Some of these things though, they're just not in your, they're nothing you can control, which sucks. But again, a player could be having a great game and all of a sudden the turf monster grabs them. They're holding their knee and you know exactly what just happened. So yeah, this one's really, really rough. And you put a lot of money into someone who you think, you know, is going to be great. And then something like this happens. It's, you know, cards can go down to zero. And this is the example.
Not just zero in his case, like that, like literally you can't even give those cards away right now. You know what I mean? Like there's no value there whatsoever. I think there are a lot of examples, like textbook examples for this particular category, like Mark McGwire. Like you think about, we at the end of our show on Monday, we talked about Mark McGwire's 1985 Topps rookie card, the Team USA card, which was like through the moon. Like everybody loved it. And after the steroids, no more. We talked before about Robert Edwards, the former Patriots running back, who had an amazing rookie season and then tore his knee up in playing on the sand.
Volleyball,
beach football.
Beach football.
Was it beach football?
It's part of the All Pro weekend. Just like it's a phenomenal season, phenomenal player, and everybody's like super high on him. And then he goes out and now nobody, very few people probably even think about him or talk about him other than us old geezers on the show. So they think of there's a lot of these things where they could happen. And there was one other example I thought of, but I think those are good enough. I think.
Well, Robert Edwards, real quick before we move on, who had him on his fantasy team? Remember, God rest his soul, Kelly. Mm-hmm. It's like he's going to go back to back to back.
Right.
Robert Edwards in our fantasy, and then Robert Edwards does that. Another one, you know, like some of them are short term things too. Like Bobby Witt, I believe, was he the one that had the steroid? Or no, Tatis.
No,
it was Tatis with the steroid thing or the PEDs or whatever. There's some short term things, and if you don't get out of them when you can, that could be a big problem too.
That's another good point too. Like when these players come in, like that, their hype level is never higher typically, and if they get hurt in their rookie season, or you know if they produce subparly, their values go down and they never go back up to that. Even if they end up having like a stellar career, a Hall of Fame type career, a lot of times they'll never get back to that point where they were. So that's a really dangerous game to play when you're especially if you're paying at the high for
which I think leads us into number 2, right, Mike?
Well, number two,
Okay.
stop trying to figure out my list. I move things all over the place here. And I had a great joke about EP's Harvey Weinstein rookie card collection, but now I can't use it because you stepped over my transition. But I digress. Number two, the second reason that your sports cards are losing value is because you decided to grade them and you didn't get a 10. Now, this shouldn't be a big problem if you get a 9, but unfortunately, there's a lot of ultra modern cards that now, if you get a 9, they're worth less money than if you didn't get it graded at all. This is crazy, but this is where we are in the hobby right now. Still saying you're going to get a 10 on some of them. They're not going to be worth as much money as they are raw. But still, this is a big reason that people lose money. I see people with big cards and see the reveals and Victor Wembanyama rookie cards, special ones that are getting 5s, cards that get 8s. If you get an 8, 9 is bad enough, but 8 is like, like you don't even want to touch it. And PSA seems to be giving a lot more of these grades on ultra modern cards. So our number 2 reason is because you decided to grade it and it didn't come back at 10.
This is such a mix of your fault and things out of your control, right? Like, it's your fault for sending these cards in. For the most part, you shouldn't be sending base rookies in anyway. I'm sorry. I know it's crazy to say you shouldn't grade literally everything you pull from a pack. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say not all of these cards need to be graded. So it's your fault for sending these cards off. And sometimes you send them off saying, oh, they're pack pooled. They have to be perfect. So I'm just going to send these in. They're pack pooled. No, of course I'm going to get a 10. So you don't even really look at them. But then some of it's out of your control where, again, the grader could have gotten cheated on the night before, could be going through divorce, could have been stuck in traffic. Like, there are reasons that graders are in bad moods. And if it's borderline between an 8 and a 9 or 9 and a 10, they're going to give you the lower grade. It's completely possible. So some of it is on you. Some of it is on the grader. All that being said, it's like you don't have to grade everything. And it used to be 8s were the perfect collector grade. It's moved up to 9s now. Like, since we've been doing this show from all the way back, probably episode 2. I'm not going to say episode 1. All the way back to say episode 2. I mean, we talked about like grading cards and how 8s were the perfect collector grade. It's moved up. It's now 9s are the perfect collector grade because you can get a 9. You can get a beautiful card that's this far away from a 10. And you can pay basically what you would pay for it raw. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a mix on it's on the collector, but it's also some outside forces that they have no control over.
Yeah, it's also on the hobby too, right? Because everybody like overvalues these 10s, and so that like it drops down the value of the 9s. But that being said, like Joe said, you don't have to grade everything. Like you have to scrutinize what it is that you're going to send in. Like be very, very meticulous and just pull out a pack and send it
right and send them in
and put it on the post-it pack pool. And you'll be set.
You're good.
Yeah.
I agree that this is like this is a very avoidable way to devalue your cards. You have to make sure you're doing the right way. I mean, the bottom line is like if you're sending it in, you better really hope that you can get the grade that you're hoping to get. If not, if you're not paying attention to that sort of stuff, you're just costing yourself money.
All right. Our third reason that your sports cards are losing value is because you speculated and you lost. Let's be real. Not everybody makes it that you're speculating on. All you have to do is look at like quarterbacks. You see a lot of people buying random backup rookie quarterbacks, not spending a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Compared to the top rookies, you're spending a lot less money. But you're also spending a lot more money than you really should be on that guy, hoping that you get that 1 week where he becomes a starter that you might be able to sell him before the game. Some of these guys just aren't going to be good. A lot of guys don't end up being star quarterbacks in the NFL. You're just playing on percentages. You're probably going to lose way more than you win. you're speculating baseball players, EP. How many of those ever make it? But people every year love to throw money at Bowman rookie cards and autographs of all these kids and hopes that maybe one of them in 3, 4, 5 years, maybe one turns into that guy.
Right.
People are throwing away a lot of money because you're speculating, and you're just wrong. You're just wrong so often when you do that there's no way to get ahead. And these cards are going down because guess what? They were never as good as the money you were paying for them to begin with.
The reason that I stepped on your transition is EP started to talk about this a little bit after, with answer one. So I was like trying to pivot to that a little bit because I was concerned he was going to go the full Monty on. Yeah. But he held back, and you handled it as a great host that you are, Mike. But I wish I was looking over to my side here. I wish I had my 1999, I think was it Bowman Chrome or Topps Chrome card of all the quarterbacks, Akili Smith, Donovan McNabb, Dante Culpepper. They don't pan out. I think this was the first card I ever used on 3 cards. They just don't pan out for the most part. So you're spending a lot of money on first-round picks, second-round picks that may or may not get a starting nod. And sometimes you're paying at the high because as soon as they're drafted, they're at their high. And then it just gets higher from there. And all it can do is go down. Eventually, it's going to go down. As for the baseball side of it, I said this, I forget when we were talking about it, but I did mention that I think the biggest scam in the hobby is Bowman firsts, because you don't know, or Bowman Chrome, because you don't know you made a bad decision buying that box of cards for like 5 years. Like, it's a bad decision, but you don't know it because they can say, well, maybe this guy you pulled an autograph of could be someone. And I want to say someone gave me a little pushback on this, but I truly believe that. Like, I think the biggest scam in the hobby is tricking you into buying something that you can't complain about for 5 years, right? Like, if you're not allowed to complain about it for 5 years because these prospects could end up being something, then they've got you. They've already figured out how to trick you into buying Bowman products every single year because you're searching for that Bowman first that maybe could be Mike Trout. It could be Mike Trout, or it could be the myriad of different players, the dozens, the hundreds of players that don't make it each year. Chances are it's going to be those guys, right?
But the argument for the Bowman firsts would be that there are multiple levels where you can sell them at some point when they move up to AAA, or when there's talk about them showing up at spring training, and then when they get called up, like that sort of stuff.
But you have to sell them then at those points. That's the problem.
Definitely. I mean, that would be an argument for those, but I agree. I don't look at them as the biggest scam in the hobby, or however you characterized it. But but it is, you are definitely rolling the dice. You're definitely playing. You're gambling. Like, this 100%. This is all we're talking about here. This is just the gambling. When you're speculating, like, you're hoping to get that big win, hoping for the lottery win. You think of, and I think the NBA is maybe one where you think about it. They have you're pretty much going to be sure that the player's going to be good, but then you have a Zion Williamson that comes in, and like, he can't stay healthy. He's good when he's on the court, but he can't stay healthy. And so the one reference I was going to make, the 1999 reference, Joe, that's perfect. I mean, that is in a nutshell what this is about. But also, how many boxes out there, and you know that they're out there. How many boxes out there have a bunch of 2000 Chad Pennington rookie cards and autos in top loaders, in soft sleeves, and then there are other boxes with Tom Brady's unsleeved, just sitting with the other commons, right? So I mean, Chad Pennington was we were all chasing Chad Pennington. I think Peter Warwick was maybe that rookie that year too.
Yeah, that was.
We were chasing all these rookies, and it wasn't Tom Brady. So yeah, I think Chad Pennington is a perfect example of this.
I'm that guy. When I went through my boxes from the shop, I'm that
same.
guy.
Yeah.
All right, number 4 reason, a little more nuanced, but I'm going to say overproduction and the increase in the number of parallels. Companies, we talk about this a lot. Companies do a lot to try to hide the fact that they're making more. They come out with more and more and more parallels. They're not doing that because they're going, oh, parallels are popular, so we're going to give you more because you're happy to get them. It's a way for them to mask how much more they're producing. I look at this in two different ways. Like with parallels, each new parallel that comes out kind of devalues a lot of cards. So you may have a card of one parallel, but 5 years later, people don't care about that parallel as much because there's another one they came out with that hit and like drew collectors' interest. Or just the fact that years after, people might just take whichever parallels close to that. If you have one numbered out of 50, them numbered out of 60, then numbered out of 70, trust me, as somebody who's been in the hobby a long time, 20 years from now when people are going back, they don't care. There's not going to be as big of a difference as there is now, or as many people trying to collect all of them. And number two, like this is Panini. You look at stuff like Kabooms and Downtowns. When they first started making them, they're way more limited than they are now. They're producing so much more product, and there are more of these cards being printed, the actual number of each card. They're making the sets bigger or doing 2-on-1 card now and trying to find other ways to trick people into not realizing they're making more. But again, as somebody who had a card shop in the 90s and saw what happened, there are a lot of cards from the 90s that at the time we thought were really rare or hard to get, that now 30 years later, with hindsight and time in there, we realized, oh, they actually made a lot of these. They just tricked us into believing that there weren't a lot. And that's unfortunately with the later years now of Kabooms and Downtown and stuff like that, I feel like that's what they're doing. So this is another more nuanced reason your cards are going down.
The issue is they can still call them case hits because they're one per case. They just make a shit ton more cases. Like that's how they do it. They just keep expanding the set. They keep expanding the checklist. They keep expanding the parallels. That yes, they can still say these are case hits, and you're like, oh, there must only be 25 of each player or whatever. You know, talking about Kabooms, Downtowns, and things like that. That well, yeah, there probably was when they only made X amount of cases. They make way more than X amount of cases now, and you've been on this since. I don't want to say again, I don't want to say episode 1. You've been on this since the beginning, Mike, about how, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, people are going to still gravitate to certain ones like the golds, right? They're going to gravitate towards certain like benchmarks of collecting. Like I think the golds are always going to be like a benchmark out of 10. People, they look good no matter what team it is or what player it is or whatever. And there are certain ones like the Joe Burrow Tiger Stripe, I think, is one of the coolest cards out there. But then they have the elephant skin, and they have the newest one now is the dragon skin out of the international boxes that everyone has been gravitating towards with Select or Prism or whatever it is. So like there's so many different things, and it all comes down to a shell game. It's all a shell game. And the thing that sucks about this one specifically is you have zero control. There is like with the speculating, you can kind of put some blame on yourself. With the grading, you can kind of put some blame on yourself. With the injuries, it's like, well, you're putting all your money in one basket. You can put some blame on yourself. With this, you got no control over it. Like as they keep making more and more products. And the concern is, as they make so many more Kabooms in the year of our Lord 2025, it's going to make people think that the Kabooms from 6 years ago or whenever they first started, oh, well, they're just as easy to pull. They must not be worth that much either, or they might not be that hard to get or that rare. Like, yes, people who are into it, like really, really like focused on cards may know that, but some people might not. So yeah, that's just overproducing a product and just shell gaming people into thinking that what they have is rare when it really isn't. That's really going to hurt people's collections financially.
Yeah, Joe, that really, I mean, it's interesting how you think about something like that, like this overproduction affecting the down the line, like the stuff from the past. Like it definitely affects that stuff. Like people see some inserts and they're like, the number to 25, say, like insert number 25. There are how many inserts or how many parallels number to 25 out in a single Panini product a year? Where back in the day, maybe back, in 2007 or something like that, there might have been just that one parallel that was numbered to 25, just that one, the orange refractor or whatever it was. So that really affects it. And then also you think about the way Panini does stuff, how many out of, as much as people like the golds, like how many gold Peyton Manning out of 10s are there out there? There are tons.
Every
and tons
year, there's 10 more, or more than 10 more.
Yeah. So if you want one, there's just a ton of them available. You just pick whichever one you want, but there's probably 1,000 Peyton Manning's number to 10. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, there's tons of those available. Joe, you talked about the cases and about how these are still case hits are creating more, but I also feel like they might have dialed up the number dialed up the machine a little bit more. So maybe every once in a while you get 2 case hits per case, because it does seem like there's even more coming out. So I mean,
it's a hot case, EP. Yes, it's a hot case.
Yep, hot case got an extra case hit. But I mean, I feel like they're doing that again.
And that was actually a thing they accidentally did. Was it with Kabooms or with Downtowns this year, where it was like every box was getting 2 Downtowns, and it's like, oh, did someone screw up, or did they turn the dial, as you say, EP, or are the not first off the lines not going to have any? Like, what's going to happen here?
Right. And then I feel like that's why some people, even still, I think that's why the PMGs and the essential credentials, those types of inserts, because of how rare they actually are, that's why they are one of the more popular things in the hobby right now.
All right. Our 5th and final reason your sports cards are losing value. This one's my personal favorite. Because you bought into the hype. Because you were maybe following a big account on a social media or watching YouTube, people like us telling you, oh, this is a great investment. And you end up losing money because you were left holding the bag. Because not everybody, this might be a shocker to some people out there, but not everybody that gives you this kind of advice are doing it with the purest of intent. Some of them are no, really? I know this is breaking news, but some of them are doing it for their own self-interest.
Wait, what?
Some people might call it a pump and dump, and you might have been part of it. I know. I just came up with that term. Isn't that pretty fitting?
I swallowed my spit by accident.
But there are content creators out there. There are big social media accounts. If they're telling you what to buy, you might need to just take a step back and ask yourself, why are they telling me?
If they say click the link in the description, maybe take it with a grain of salt.
All right, hey.
They're telling you that. But I'm not finished here, Joe. There might be some people out there that are doing this to generate a buzz around the card to make the value go up so they can sell theirs. And then all of a sudden, this has never happened before. Gary V, Jeff Wilson, many others.
Hey.
But I'm saying they never did this, that they ever talked about stuff and then maybe never talked about selling their stuff and never talked about the cards again. And then people who had cards that were really hot because these people were talking about them, once they stopped talking about them, wonder why. Because they sold them. And once they sold them, they stopped talking about them. The value just dropped. And it was all because it was an artificial bubble created by these personalities, these influencers, and you got. Go ahead.
How do you pronounce that? Pump and
dump? I called it, I think.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, this is not just a pump and dump thing either. I think getting caught up in the hype, you don't even need a YouTube influencer to get you caught up in the hype, because I've been saying
social media in general can get
social media in general, but I'll just tell you what, one thing I've been saying for a while is the thing that collectors and hobbyists don't have is self-control, man. Like, there is zero self-control in this hobby, and you know that it leads to people seeing a new product come out. And EP, we talked about this on the podcast flagship, right? You actually exercise some self-control. You did as well, Mike. I mean, you saw when it started at 190, went up to 225 or whatever it was, and you're like, nope, I'm not today. I'm not going to be doing that. And you actually held yourself to some self-control. I mean, you ended up buying something else. So I don't know. It's like being at being at Walmart and seeing what candy bars are available at the cashier, but but still, I mean, I think just self-control in general is a bad thing. So you buy into this hype and people push you in that direction. And you have people who, for ulterior motives, let's just say, may want you to buy some things. And, you saw it with like Marvel PMGs, like Gary Vee and some of the influencers were hyping those, and now they've crashed. Great curator. Yeah.
Leave them out of the list. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I mean, there are a lot of people that are hyping this stuff up and they get you like Jones for it. And I mean, even we made fun of Josh Luber for opening up boxes of what was Luka's rookie year, 2017. And it's like, would it shock you if Josh Luber already had the 101 Luka that he's been saying, oh, you people should buy this box? It's never been pulled. So yes, I think there's hype from both ways. I think it's hype from social media. I think it's hype from influencers, but I also think it's just the way we collect. Like we can't FOMO. We can't miss out, man. We got to make sure we get this box on release day, because if we don't, well, we won't get the same exact cards we probably will anyway. Like that the mentality there is just wild to me. But yeah, I think it's a double-sided coin, and both of those sides are just calm down. Just calm down. You'll be able to get these cards eventually. Deep breath. Take your time. Just take your time. Step back and say, I do not need this on release day. I do not need this on release day.
But I need it.
But I need it. I really need it on release day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's like this in other hobbies, but our hobby, the hype train, is very much real. It is a thing that the companies rely on to sell their stuff. It is a thing that we jump on, and we spend $1,000 on a Prism hobby box, even though there's no chance we're going to get it. We save up all our money. We spend $3,500 on a Star Wars Galactic Antiquities box and get nothing out of it. Like that is the hype train, the really bad hype train in my opinion. But it also goes to the kabooms, like we talked about in the last segment. Like the kabooms, when they like right now, like this year's kabooms, oh my god, that's what everybody wants. But then they're all going to go down in value once the next kabooms come out. Like everybody jumps, everybody jumps onto that train, and they need to get it. And but Mike, you refer to it as an artificial bubble, and I love that. Like, but think about the number of artificial bubbles that are created every season for all the different sports and for all these different products. And if you jump in,
you could set a watch to an EP.
Yeah,
you could set a watch to these bubbles.
Yeah, you jump on that train, and I mean you're gonna be in trouble. Like you need to, like Joe said, just pump the brakes, take a breath.
And I've trademarked that term "pump and dump" that I just created today.
So
don't go out there using it.
I love it. You should make a T-shirt. Yeah,
I totally came up with that all by myself right here on the spot today. All right. Well, there are 5 reasons. As always, if you think of any others, let us know in the comments. Yep. Yeah. If you want to fight us, please don't. We're old. We're tired. We do all these shows. We don't have the energy to fight you. So
only 2/3 really do fight in the comments. There's one of us who just never just swings by.
I don't like to get into fights. That's the deal.
Is that your excuse?
I'm a pacifist.
I don't like to get in fights with people that actually leave us good comments. All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
See you, boys.
See ya.